Hello friends, it's Cindy Brumbaugh from CindyLeeBDesigns.com, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Today I'd like to show you the technique called triple time stamping. It's an oldie, it's been around a long time, but it's still a goodie. I still get excited whenever I use this technique. It was one of the first techniques I used in my first couple classes as a demonstrator. I was so nervous and so happy when the girls really enjoyed the effect that this triple time stamping had. In fact, I still get nervous before every class because I'm so excited to teach the girls something new. So this technique looks like we've typed 3 different levels, but really we're only stamping one time, and we're going to be putting a cardstock border in between all of our very vanilla layers. So I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So to get started, I want to show you the stamp set I use. I'm using the Rooted in Nature stamp set. This one will be in the new annual catalog coming out in just less than a week on June 1st, 2018. The Rooted in Nature stamp set has framelits with it, so you'll be able to cut out these neat leaves and some of the trees. Has some great sentiments in it. So for this card, I chose these 2 leaves here, the larger one and the smaller one. They had some intricate webbing on them, and I thought that would be a really pretty delicate look on the card. And I also used this stamp with the 3 leaves on it because the veining was pretty intricate on that too. So what I did then is picked my colors. I love Cajun Craze, and I love pairing it with Garden Green and then the new returning Blackberry Bliss. How many of you are excited about that color coming back? I know I am. So to get started, let's take a look at this card. Let's just tear it down a little bit here. So the card base is half a sheet of cardstock, and it's an 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it at 4 1/4, and that gave me a landscape card that opened from the bottom that will fit into an A2 sized envelope. Then the next layer here, the outer very vanilla layer, is 5 1/4 by 4, and then the cardstock layer here is 3 1/4 by 4.5, and then we go down smaller to another very vanilla, and it's 3 by 4 1/4, and then we go down to another cardstock layer, which is 2 1/4 by 3.5, and then we go down smaller to 2 by 3 1/4. Did you get all that? Well, don't worry if you didn't, because it'll all be on my blog post for this card, the Rooted in Nature triple time stamping, on my blog, CindyLeeBDesigns.com. So to get started, I'll show you how you do triple time stamping. It's a great technique that you can use with so many different images. I just especially am just drawn towards leaves and flowers on this type of card. So what we're going to do is take our largest piece of very vanilla, the 4 by 5 1/4. And then we have the next size and the next size. So what I like to do is use a temporary adhesive to adhere these 3 layers together. Now, if you still have hanging around some of the Stampin' Up! Two-way glue pen, whenever you put a little bit of it on and it dries completely, it's just tacky, so you can easily use that. So that is what I'm going to put on here. So all I do is put just a little bit on there, and then I just let it dry. And then I adhere it to the middle. Here, I'll pull this bigger piece. I adhere it to the middle of this vanilla. And then I just turn this over, and I just put a little bit of adhesive there. And then let it dry. And then put it here. If you put tape runner under it, you could get some bumps when the stamp goes on it. So whatever you're going to do, just do a thin layer of it. If you're really good and can keep it in place, which most likely can't be done. So we've got our 3 layers, the smallest, the next, and the largest. So what we do then is I pick this larger leaf, and then I just pick the Cajun Craze, and I just inked up my leaf, took a look to make sure I didn't have any edges, and then I just pick random places to stamp the image. You want to try to give a nice firm pressure because it's going over some of the layers of the very vanilla, but you don't want to shake it too much. But there you go. You have your first layer. And then you'll go on to the Blackberry Bliss was the next one I did. Now these new stamp pads, remember, we're going to be tempted to push them, but they actually open on a hinge and then slide. And then I just took that smaller leaf and I layered it by my Cajun Craze leaf. leaf. Okay, now you're noticing that there's some broken edges there, but we're gonna fix that. That's the magic of this card. So our next color was the garden green, and for the garden green I used the triple leaf here. Inked it up, and then I just layered it again right by the other ones. So by the magic of video, we end up with a card that is stamped like, ooh, that moved a little bit. So we end up with these 3 layers of stamped images, and we look at it and we think, oh, this looks not very nice around here, but look how magical. Get this glue out of the way. Get my handy dandy snail back here, and then I'm going to layer the smallest one right onto the Cajun craze, and then I'm going to take this one, put some adhesive on here. I'm going to layer it onto this Cajun craze, and then I can layer this largest piece, the 4 by 5 1/4. Let's just put a little there. And we are going to put it on to the card base. A nice 1/8 inch border all around. So that actually kind of looks cool too if you put some stamping in there. But what we're going to do is just layer and see. You got to make sure you get them in the right place. Notice how that didn't make sense. We've had a few of those at class. But we're just, you see how you just match up the leaves. Speaking of fun things we do with triple time stamping, Marcia, do you remember when we did this one? How fun it was? Her card turned out really cool. So here we go. And we just layer on the next one. And just make sure that it matches. Does that match? No. So we just make sure our leaves are matching up. Isn't that cool? Huh! So as you can see on this card, we have a sentiment here that comes from that stamp set, "You are wonderful." So this makes kind of a generic saying here. So you could put happy birthday, thank you, congratulations, anything inside. So the "You are wonderful," we're going to stamp on a very vanilla. And what I did for this one is I used my triple banner punch, which is thankfully not on the other side of the room. So what I did was, this piece is 1 1/4 because it fit the sentiment very nicely. And then this one is 1 1/2 wide. So we've got 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. And what you'll want to do is, I stamped it on a piece of paper that was 4 inches, because then when I put it into here, when you're stamping, when you're punching a 1 inch and in between 1 and 1 1/2, you're going to lose about a 1/4 inch of your paper on the back here whenever you cut it out. So what I did was I started with a 4-inch piece, it cut some off, and I also took this as a 4-inch piece and made the banners. So the banners are going to be very nicely, tightly put together. And then when I was done with that, I came over and I just trimmed off a 1/4 inch on this side, and then I put this on and put it back in my paper trimmer, and then I just have a really nice, evenly spaced sentiment there. And then what I did was I just wrapped some of our, another thing I always have on hand is the linen thread. When you don't know what to do to finish off your card, get out your linen thread. So what I did is I rolled it like 3 times around the end of the tag, and then I took these really, really cool leaves trinkets that are going to be in the annual catalog on June 1st as well. And these are metallic, and they have like silver and copper, and I thought the copper went really well with the Cajun on here. And then since we had this triple stamp here, or triple leaf image here, I just used this one and I tied a bow around that, used a glue dot on the back, and popped it on there, and then just put some of my dimensionals underneath, and I finished off my card. So you can make this card using fluoro images, balloons, anything you want, even words. It looks really cool. Triple time stamping. I used the Rooted in Nature stamp set coming out in the new catalog, Cajun Craze, Blackberry Bliss, and Garden Green. So if you have any questions, you can always go to my blog, cindyleebedesigns.com, and I'll have the measurements, the materials, the colors. If you have any questions, you can always email me at cindyleeb@gmail.com. And you could also call me if you want, or text me at 724-323-2296. If you make one of these cards, send me a picture. I'd love it. Thanks for buzzing by, friends.